Okay, so in today's video, we are trying to replicate the enemy spawn system. So just going to wait for the game to come back. Okay, so here's what we're trying to replicate. So you have the enemies coming, and you can shoot them to damage the enemy. Right now, they don't have orientation because they are facing the wrong place, but we'll fix that in another video. So this is basically what we're trying to do. Let's get started. First, I'm going to, this is the prefab we use, it's called enemy, but we're going to start from scratch. So I'll recreate our enemy assets. So let's just click on this and find where that sprite is. Okay, so we've got sprite, we're going to drop it right into our scene, and we're going to call this sprite enemy 2. Now, after naming that enemy 2, we have to add a couple of things. First of all, if you check the original, we have the rigid body 2D, enemy AI, and capture collider. So I just quickly going to add that, but not in that exact arrangement because that's a bit bad. So the first thing we're going to do is add a rigid body 2D. We're going to open that up, come to our constraint. We're going to freeze rotation on Z because we don't want it rotating around. We just want it to stay straight, like a flat object, not rotating like it's a 3D object. Then we're going to leave everything else as is, but we're going to set gravity scale to 0 because we don't want our enemy falling down on the ground. We want them acting like they are flying in the air. So gravity will be set to 0. Now we can close that. The next thing we'll do is we're going to add a capsule collider, a circle, sorry, circle collider. Because if you check on the B in the scene, you can see it looks like a circle fits it just right. So by using a circle collider, so we can get interaction between the enemy and the player. The next thing we're going to do is change our enemy tag for our enemy to enemy because the script will be using that to detect the enemy later on. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to click on script. We're going to look for our enemy AI script and we're going to add it to our enemy game object. Now after doing that, we'll leave our attack speed at 2, delay speed at 2, and then we'll provide our player as the target transform. So there you go. I'm going to save that. Next what we're going to do is we're going to create this as a prefab. Let's go to our prefab folder. Okay, we don't have any at the moment. Let's right click, create folder. No, it's doing this inside of set. Okay, let's name this prefab and open that up. Now to make this a prefab, we just drag our enemy 2 into here, which is good. Now we can delete it from the scene, and if you go to your prefab, you see your prefab has everything already. Now the next thing we're going to do is so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to the best thing for you to do is drag your prefab into the scene, assign the player because player will not be target will not be assigned while it's in the folder. So just keep it in the scene and then you can just let this stay somewhere else. We would fix the not having to do this, but not now. You need to understand where you're there. So our enemy is right over here. The next thing we're going to do is set up our enemy spawn. But before I do that, let me quickly open up the script and do a quick explanation of what is going on. And if you want this script, the downloading it, the link will be in the description. So here we have all our initial variables set. We have the transform, which is the target player, the speed, which is the horizontal speed at which the enemy moves, and the delay. This is the wait time before this gets triggered. Now, there's something called invoke. Invoke is a function in Unity, and you can use it to do like a countdown before triggering a particular function. So here we have player. So we already set up a system to find the player regardless. So there's no need for putting the player and the enemy in the scene. I forgot I already did this. So this just finds the player automatically on its own. The next thing we're going to do is we have the this is the invoke method, so it's going to wait 2 seconds before calling the start attack. And start attack, all it does is just set can attack to true, and if can attack is true, then our enemy begins to move towards our player. As you can see, that's what this code is, move towards the player. So that's that. Minimize, and then the next thing we need to do after doing this, can delete this from the scene now. Next thing we need to do after this is set up our enemy spawner. So here we have, so these are enemy spawner game object script. These are the spawn points. These are just empty game objects with transform position, which is here and here for the two different locations. Now this is where the this is what's handling all of the magic at the moment. So spawn interval here is 2 seconds, so it's going to spawn an enemy every 2 seconds, and that enemy is going to wait 2 seconds before attacking the player. So that's 4 seconds delay for each of the enemies. Now the next thing is we are going to apply our enemy prefab here, which is we're going to go into our prefab folder. Let's look for that. Go to assets. Mm, okay, let's look for the prefab folder. I really don't. I think I placed it okay here. So we're going to select our enemy spawner, and we're going to drop our enemy prefab into here. So this is the enemy we want to spawn from these two different locations, which is here and here. Sorry, here and here. You can see them getting highlighted on the screen and here. So let's open up our spawner and let's see. So here we can add multiple points. We can add a third point. Control D. This will give us a third point, and we can move that third point. We can move that third point all the way here. Usually I don't do that. I like to move it in directions that I'm sure. So we can just put that there, and then we'll go into our enemy spawner, change this value to 3, and then we're going to drop this new location into here. So as much as you want, you could always add more points that you want your enemy to spawn from. And even if you get very good at programming, you can do this dynamically, which means the game just figures out how many spawn points you want to create and do all of that. So that's that. So we have this. Let's open up the script and let's see what's going on. So let's start. In our script, we have ignore this, not necessary for beginners. Ignore this. This is just so that if you come to the script, you can see the headers here. So that's enemy settings, and the next one is spawn settings. So if you take a look at our script here, enemy setting, here spawn settings. So that's just basically all it does. So for the enemy setting, we created a game object, which is the enemy game object prefab, which is okay. That's all we want for our enemy prefab. And then for the spawn setting, we declared an open array of any amount of spawn points. So here, spawn points, this is an array. um Depends on any amount you want to put in, you put in, and that's what it does. Then the next thing we have here is the public float interval. This is a float value which is going to be like 2 seconds. The interval we wait before we spawn another enemy, and this is a float timer. So what this timer does is it counts down the spawn interval. So it's going to say, okay, this is the current time, and we want time to be greater than timer to be greater than interval. So this code right here just lets timer start from 0 and it adds 1 2. Time dot delta time just adds 1 2, and here we're checking if timer is greater than or equals to spawn interval. Then we want to spawn the enemy, and then we want to reset timer back to 0. Then it's going to go back here, do 1 2. Timer is now greater than or equals to 2, and this goes all over. This just continues to happen because it is in the update loop. It's called an update loop because this will continue to happen until the game is exited. The next place we check on is the spawn enemy. So this spawn enemy function that gets called here every 2 seconds, what does it do? It checks if the enemy prefab exists. If it doesn't exist, then this will fail. If um, there's nothing in the slot, it also fails. Now, if it doesn't, it means there's actually an enemy prefab provided. Then it's going to do an random index and store it into this int. So sorry, random index. This is it declares this as an integer, puts a random length, which means it's going to pick any of the 2 points which to spawn the enemy from, and then it's going to say, okay, this is transform spawn point, and going to pick that spawn point from. So this spawn point is the listed spawn points here, and it's going to say, okay, spawn point, and then it's going to enter the index. So the first spawn point will be indexed as 0. The second point spawn point will be indexed as 1. That's how your computer calculates array. So everything in an array, the first one is going to be 0, the next one is going to be 1. So even if you have a b c d in your array, if you find the address for that array, 0 is definitely going to be a. If you find 1, it's definitely going to be b. That's how arrays work. Yes, so after doing that, we've gotten the point, which is this spawn point that we want. Now we're going to say, okay, instantiate that enemy which is um position that a clone of that enemy in this particular spawn point we just created, we just fetched from the list of spawn point, and also adhere to the rotation of that spawn point. This will also change later on, but for now this is what it is. And when we hit play, when we hit play, it should technically spawn all the enemies. So we're looking at that. Let's go to scene view, and there you go, and there you go, and there you go, and there you go, and there you go. So basically that's it. If you found this video useful, please subscribe, like the video. um, the files for this video will be at the bottom